Hello, currently sitting in my bed, wondering about what are the common misconceptions that people have about trans people, because it would be nice to clear that up. So I reached out to you, and here are some of the things you said.
Hey, my name's Shay, and I'm gonna try and do this as quickly as possible because it's my birthday today and I gotta go eat cake. But some trans misconceptions is
people expect you to show signs of being transgender from a young age.
everyone knew from like age 5 or 4, and they've known like their entire lives.
I know so many other trans people who had no idea that their gender could be wrong until they're teenagers.
Some people don't figure it out until they're in their late teens, their late 20s, their 30s, 50s. Some people transition at any age, at age 55. I've seen it, it's possible, it's a thing.
A common misconception about trans people is that you're lying to them when you don't tell them right away that you were born a male or a female.
I'm from North Carolina, and I saw this misconception that transgender people are mentally ill and therapy can change them.
I think one of the big misconceptions of being transgender is that they think it's almost fake, that you're just doing this for attention.
Being transgender is that we want attention.
You know, I wouldn't wish dysphoria on anybody.
Like, everyone just wants to be comfortable in their body. Like, no one wants this, like, I don't want this attention. Maybe you do, but that's not me.
Transgender people like to be considered special snowflakes, when in reality, most of us just like want to blend in with the other guys.
Hi, I'm Elliot. I'm 19-year-old. The misconception I recently heard was from one of my friends who said that trans people are just bored or bored of themselves. And I don't quite get it why you would question your gender and start transitioning if you're just bored.
The misconception many people have about being transgender is that it's a trend. It's not a trend, it's not cool, it's not fun.
Because if you're bored, you want to do something fun. Like, for example, you go to a concert, you read a book, you do some sport, or you cook some food, or whatever, I don't know. So I don't quite get it why you would be bored and think, oh, I should change my gender.
We just want to be ourselves. And we all deserve to be ourselves. We all just want to be comfortable in our own skin.
I've always found that the biggest misconception that people have on trans people is
if you're trans, then you have to have every single surgery.
Surgeries, or female to male people want the same surgery.
When I spoke to my parents about me being trans, and they asked me about surgery,
that we all want the surgery and that there is only one surgery.
Because one, not everyone can afford it.
Just because you can't have it doesn't mean you aren't trans.
2, not everyone wants to.
A lot of trans people actually don't want that surgery because it is very invasive and has a high risk.
I don't understand why it's like this one fit mold. You know, not every trans person wants to get every single type of surgery. Everyone has their own path, their own history.
So I'm not gonna ask you what you have in your pants, so why would it be okay to ask a trans person just because we're trans? Like, that makes no sense. So yeah, don't do that.
Yeah, one other thing is, I don't like how it's like you must disgust and hate every part of your body. You must be depressed all the time and must hate yourself, and if you feel any sort of like happiness, then you're not trans.
The trans misconception that I'd like to clear up is that every trans person that wishes to start HRT can do so easily. Like, oh my goodness, you've been out for so long, how come you're not on hormones? And as a trans person, that kind of hurts to hear, because at least personally, it took me over a year to access hormones. Everybody's experience is different, and it depends on where you are. Like, I know in other countries it might be completely different. Everybody has a different experience, and I'm happy for those who are able to get testosterone quickly, but that's not the case for everybody.
Hi, my name's Jazz, and one of the biggest misconceptions I hear about being trans is that people think all non-binary people are just binary trans people in denial.
Is that we're all binary men or women, and I'm here as a non-binary trans person to say that that's not true.
I'm not in denial. I tried being a boy and a girl, and I didn't connect with either.
A common misconception about trans people is that non-binary people aren't trans.
There are a lot of non-binary people that identify as trans, and not all trans people fit neatly into just male or just female.
that MB people, as in non-binary people, are just skinny and white and dye their hair whatever colours and we're just trying to be special. No. I'm black. Hi. Cool. But I don't feel like a lot of people of colour, I think, aren't as present in the community like they should be.
Another misconception which I feel a lot of cis people have is that trans people don't get in relationships, which really isn't true. I know a lot of trans people who are dating. It's sometimes harder, but it's definitely not something that people don't do.
A huge misconception that people have about being non-binary is that you can only date people who are genderqueer. That isn't true whatsoever. I myself am in a relationship with a lovely girl named Jillian, but people think that that is wrong because she can't call me boyfriend or girlfriend, only significant other.
Hi Kovu, my name's Lucy, I'm 13 and I'm from Wales. And one misconception I hear quite a bit is that sexual orientation has something to do with gender.
A misconception that I have about trans people is that when they change gender, they change who they like.
A lot of the time I get told that I can't be trans because I'm gay.
People come with the argument that, oh, why are you turning as a boy if you like men? It's not easier if you just stay as a woman as you are right now. Like, people do not understand that gender and sexuality are different things.
One day we're gonna wake up and realize that, you know, all the trans guys out there are just secretly lesbians and all the trans girls out there are secretly just gay guys. Are there people out there who at one point identified as trans and then, you know, realize that they are maybe just gay or lesbian? Yes, but that's not the entire community.
Hey, I'm Luca, and I think a really big misconception about being trans is that all trans people have the same view on gender identities and stuff like that.
You need dysphoria to be trans.
Hi, I'm Emma and I'm 13, and a misconception I've come across has been that trans people will only talk about them being trans and they won't talk about anything else. And it's not true, because one of my bestest friends is trans himself and he never speaks about it. He's so funny and I love him so much, and he's probably watching, so hi. But yeah, and they're not their own category. It doesn't matter, your gender does not define you. There's so much more to a person than what gender they are. So the fact that they get treated differently, I absolutely hate it, and I think just treat everyone equally because they're not any different to anyone else.
A common misconception that I've heard is that trans guys cannot have biological children. Pre-transition, they could either give birth themselves, or you could always either freeze your egg and have another woman give birth to your child with either your significant other's sperm or a sperm donation.
I thought I would just jump in with my misconception here, which is that testosterone is not birth control, and even if a trans guy has been on testosterone for a while and has stopped his cycle, he can still get pregnant. And I think that's very important to know, both for trans guys themselves as well as people with penises who have sex with trans guys. It can still happen, so watch out. Just be careful and be safe.
One of the main ones I feel like is that if you're a trans guy that you have to dress masculine, or say you're a trans girl that you have to dress feminine.
And vice versa if you're FTM.
That trans men and trans women cannot be feminine or masculine.
You can't be a trans man and still be feminine in some ways.
Trans boys can't wear makeup and trans girls can't wear masculine clothing.
Why are you painting your nails? I thought you wanted to be a boy.
And as a trans guy, I could never cut my hair. I love it so much.
There are cis people that just look a lot feminine or a lot masculine, and it does not make them be the opposite gender. So
if you're a girl and you want to have short hair, go for it. If you're a boy and you want to have long hair, go for it. I think you should not let your hair define you. Just be yourself.
It's just a way of expressing yourself. It doesn't mean that you're not trans.
I spent 6 years denying the fact I was trans and hating myself for it, because
I am a guy, but I don't always act extremely masculine. I'm not into sports or that much into video games or a lot of typically male things.
I thought because I happened to like knitting and I didn't mind the colour purple or...
And not all trans girls are the ones obsessed with clothes and jewelry and makeup or anything like that.
I just didn't conform to this like idea of sporty or sexual idea of being male, that it made me less of a man.
People are who they are, and gender doesn't affect that very much.
One common misconception about trans people, especially FTM, is that we bind with ace bandages, because in like movies and the media, it is portrayed that we bind with bandages, and which is a very unhealthy thing to have put out there, because binding with ace bandages is very unhealthy and you can get hurt from it.
People often confuse what trans girls and trans guys really means. Trans woman is a woman who has transitioned to a woman from a biological male. So trans woman, male to female, trans men, female to male, because it is what they are at the end of the transition. Which also reminds me that transition doesn't make you trans. I get some comments sometimes that say like, oh Kovu, I wish I could become a trans guy like you, which I presume that they mean I wish I could transition into physically a guy like you, because being trans isn't something you become. It's not like you transition and now you're a trans guy. I was a trans guy before I transitioned. To put it simply, a boy mind in a female body, and that is something you are, and then you transition. So you're already trans before you transition. And that also links to some things that were said earlier in this video. You don't need surgery to be trans, because you are already trans. If you're a boy up here, or a girl up here, or something in between up here, and then your body doesn't correspond with that gender.
Thanks for listening and have a great day.
Bye.